Let's look at some definitions of truth. Dictionary.com, the actual state of matter in conformity with reality. Wikipedia, to be in accord with fact or reality. Merriam-Webster's dictionary, fidelity, constancy, fact, actuality. We will define truth and understanding of the facts that correspond to reality, an understanding of the facts that correspond to reality. The secular approach. Truth is perspective. Some have suggested that perspective is truth. The basis for their approach is personal opinion. There's a vast difference between truth and the perception of truth. This approach is contingent on two variables. First, consensus. This is the idea that the majority opinion of a cultural group determines the truthfulness of something. Incidentally, this notion paved the way for Hitler. The majority can trample the minority even if something is not actually true. Relativism and situational ethics. The idea of relativism has been summarized by the popular phrase, truth for me. But what happens when your truth is in conflict with my truth? Those that embrace relativism lack an objective standard by which to determine the truth. Truth to them is simply an issue of expedience. The secular approach summary. In short, the secularist believes that truth changes. But try this with your bank and see how broad-minded they are. It is this approach to truth that has led to the notion that every view, concept, or idea should be tolerated and respected, even if it is patently wrong. Beside that, the secularist attacks those that make exclusive claims like Christianity. That evaluation is simply an uninformed perspective. The spiritual approach, truth, is tradition. The basis for this approach is religious mysticism. Our world is full of religions. Each of them claims to possess the truth. And our so-called tolerant society tells us that they are all right. In short, the argument goes like this. All religions are basically teaching the same thing. But we need to ask if that statement is true. Can we or should we challenge religious beliefs? Yes. For that matter, we as Christians welcome those challenges. When comparing the truthfulness of all religious claims, there are only two options. One, both claims are false. Two, one is truth and one is false. Just consider the comparisons between any monotheistic system of belief, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and any polytheistic system of belief, Hinduism, Shintoism, animalism. They may both be false, but they can't both be true. The scientific approach. Truth is facts. The basis for this approach is verifiable empirical data. Many view science as an infallible God. Christians, in fact, fear questioning the findings of science lest we be viewed as uninformed. But we must be careful here because science has some inherent weaknesses when it comes to declaring truth. Caution. We must guard against assuming that the scientist is unbiased and neutral in dealing with the data. Scientists, despite their claim to the contrary, are equally influenced by professional biases, political correctness, atheistic and evolutionary worldviews, and blind spots in their thinking. This doesn't make the scientist evil. It makes him or her human. Limits. While the scientific approach can discover certain facts about our world, it cannot make any moral judgments in regard to those facts. Further, scientific truth does not necessarily affect human behavior. Have you ever heard a drug addict say, "I was reading a math book and I decided to give up my drugs"? Or, "I was reading a biology book and decided to stop lying"? There are limits to the collection of data. Thus, science cannot know everything, especially regarding the metaphysical or spiritual arena. So what should happen next for the scientist? He should reevaluate this theory and adjust for any variance in the data. The scriptural approach. Truth is a person. Ultimately, we are asking, has God spoken? And if so, what has He said? As Christians, we believe that God has spoken and that He has revealed Himself through His Word, the Bible. Consider these biblical claims. Although this is not an exhaustive list of truth claims, it is foundational to our understanding the source of truth. Yeah. Yeah. Make it bigger so I can see. Okay. Yeah. Consider these biblical truth claims. Although this is not an exhaustive list of truth claims, it is foundational to our understanding the source of truth. Conclusion. Objective truth exists, and we find in John 8:32. This is also called propositional truth. We believe that just as we can boldly assert mathematical truth, we can affirm spiritual truth. Further, this truth exists independent of one's acceptance of it. The absence of truth creates bondage. We might call this spiritual bondage. The application of truth liberates. Truth only liberates if you believe it and apply it to your life. John 17:17. God's word is truth. God has spoken. God desires to communicate with us. God's communication is consistent with His nature. God breathed His word into existence. Jesus embodies truth. John 14:6. Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life."